starting with Matthew chapter 20, verse 13. Excuse me, chapter verse 1 through 13, which reads, "Here is another illustration of the salvation." We just kind of call it salvation. The owner of an estate went out early one morning to hire workers for his harvest field. He agreed to pay them $20 a day, literally a denarius. The payment for the day's labor, equivalent to $20 in modern times or £7 in the UK or elsewhere, and sent them out to work. A couple of hours later, he was passing a hiring stall. Just make sure I'm still live. I am. And he saw some men standing around waiting for jobs, so he sent them also into his fields, telling them he would pay them whatever was right at the end of the day. At noon and again at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he did the same thing. At 5 o'clock that evening, he was in town again and saw some more men standing around and asked them, "Why haven't you been working today?" "Because no one has hired us," they replied. "Then go on out and join the others in my fields." That evening, he told the paymaster to call the men in and pay them, beginning with the last men first. When the men hired at 5 o'clock were paid, they each received $20 or £7 as payment. So when the men hired earlier came to get theirs, they assumed they would receive much more. But they too were paid $20 or £7. They protested. "Those fellows worked only 1 hour, yet you've paid them just as much as those who worked all day in the scorching heat." "Friend," he answered one of them, "I did you no wrong. Didn't you agree to work all day for $20 or £7? Now, if you don't understand this, let me explain it to you. And I'm actually going to use the white notepad first because it makes a little bit more sense that way. Just arranging the font size. According to Jesus, salvation means the same level of reward for every person. The person who receives him into their life and their life aligns with him, even when they are nearly dead and gone, will receive the exact same level of freedom from demonic molestation. I'll show you where I should get that here shortly. As the one who gave him permission to set their lives in order from the time they were very young. Alright, I just got that. Let's bring in the black notepad. According to Matthew 20, verses 1 through 13. Salvation is based on what his terms are, not our terms. In fact, the ones who are going to be the most disappointed at the level of freedom are the ones who have been serving Jesus the longest, but haven't been giving him the one thing in their soul that he requires: time. In the words of Tim Carscadden, when Jesus, when God is the one who is in charge of your life, and you have given him the authority over your body, then he becomes the one who is responsible for your body to be alive and healthy. Just pick that up. Separate paragraph. Very simply, if you are struggling to be healthy, even though you are doing well, it may very well be that you have claimed responsibility for the health of your body and haven't fully laid down your life to the authority of Jesus Christ. Now, if that's not a shocker, check this out. BlueLetterBible.org. Salvation, and I'm going to have some advanced options. I don't want the whole Bible, I just want the New Testament. Search. Verse 69 in the tools. Salvation is soteria. And it is deliverance from the molestation of enemies and the enemies are the demonic. So if you're wondering why your life is so dang full of all the struggles that's going on in your life, there is a very good possibility that you have said to God, I am going to be the one that's going to be in charge of where I live, what I do with my body, so on, so on, so on. Is that the way that you're doing life? Well, you're not living in the fullness of salvation. You're just not. We're actually going to come back to this particular description. One moment while I blow me nose. Is it possible to fit a square peg in a round hole? This looks pretty round, right? I just had to do that. All right. There's another thing going on here. I've heard it said that this is a description of the Jews who have served God for 8,000 years and the Gentiles have only served him for about 2 or 3,000 years. And the Jews are really, really angry that the Gentiles get to be adopted, or what's the word? Grafted. Grafted in. The Jews get very angry about that. Too bad. What Jesus is saying here is that it doesn't matter how long you have lived or haven't lived very long before you receive Christ, you get the same entrance into heaven. You get the opportunity to experience a complete deliverance from all enemies. I believe that's demonic as well. But when you begin to walk in the kingdom of God, now there we have a little bit different parameters, which we're going to get to on Monday, and I don't want to spoil it. So I'll just leave it right there.